people. I'm Guinevere Query, founder and CEO of Guide to HR. Today, we're going to be talking about building your business from a marketing perspective, and I have Charleh Knighton on the call. Charleh, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm a fractional CMO. That's a chief marketing officer. And for people that don't know what fractional is, I come in at a C-suite level on a part-time basis because I specialize in small businesses who are usually AI software, manufacturing or engineering. That's the realm that I live in. And usually they only need me on a fractional basis because they might only be like 1 million to 5 million, and they just don't need that level of expertise full time. They need a lot of doing people and to be directed. And it's always the story, how on earth did I end up in this position? I grew a marketing agency for 8 years out of Manchester in the UK. And I always like to say that it was pre and post COVID, because the marketing world pre and post COVID was a really significant time in how we did business and how we grew, technology advances. So we've obviously connected through podcasting, and I've grown teams and worked with many teams from like a marketing and growth perspective.
Love it. And so what do you have, like a specific industry that you focus on, or have you been able to kind of have experience with a wide range of industries?
Yeah, it's totally a wide range of industries. I always say that I do feel like I'm at a point where I know a little about a lot. You put me,
Yeah.
I'm English, so if you put me in a pub quiz on small businesses, I could rock that.
I
Ask
love
me
it.
huge depths about things, I'm going to be a bit flaky. But no, engineering, manufacturing, and AI SaaS is very much I'd say is the core area. So really, the way I like to describe it to everybody is if you look at a business and it just looks like an alien language to you, that's my client.
I love it. That is so awesome. That's fun. That's a great, easy way to determine that. So, as you come in and you work with your clients, what are some of the things that you're seeing? Like maybe the top 3 things that you see are really a need to know or need to start focusing on as founders who are listening today, as they start to think about growing their business from a marketing perspective. What are those top 3 things they should be thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. If a business is obviously coming to me and talking to me, they have some ambition to have more revenue, to have more sales, and to grow their business.
All about the money, right?
It's all about the money. And well, they always approach me on, let's say, point number one, of what is going to grow your business. And that is new business, new sales, new leads, new purchases. That's, really obvious. Every small business knows this, that they need more of that if you're going to grow. But then I always feel like there's actually 2 hidden points that will either make or break your business and make or break your growth. And that is stopping the churn of those clients flying in and out the door. So it's great that you get the business, but if they boot out 2 weeks later, that's not going to help your growth.
Yeah.
And then the third is building your A team, really building your superhuman team, because the hidden cost of your growth is if they make mistakes, or they are not up to standards, or they are not trying to be the best that they can be. Well, then you're going to be constantly having to do double the work, or you're going to be inefficient, or you're just not going to be at the pace of the competition. And it can be quite a hard lesson for a lot of small businesses, because you might really love your team, but if they're not performing, well, then it's going to be quite challenging. And when we come and, when you're coming and talking with people, it's a big, big, big minefield.
Yeah.
But if you're going to summarize it, what are the three absolute elements that every small business needs to know and understand? It's generating new business, stopping the churn, and building your A team.
Yeah. And on the A team front, like a lot of times I'll come into companies where they maybe just got Series C funded or D funded, or not D funded, but Series D. And I kind of look at the CEO, I'm like, okay, we got to evaluate the skill set that the company needs now, because a series C
Mm,
or D company and the skill sets needed for that to go the next level is different than a pre-seed or a series A. And a lot of the people that are in your org have, given blood, sweat, tears, their time, everything on their back, like everything they could to help you get to where you are, but they might not be the right people or have the right skills
mm,
for you to be able to get to the next stage. And it's really hard. A lot of times these founders, like, these are friends or friends of friends, or even somehow connected from a family perspective, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's hard to really think about it. But if in the mindset, you can think about, what is the skills I need to go to the next level, and think about from that perspective, and then start filling in, who do you have that have those skills, and then see, where is your skills gaps. You got to fill those positions in, and
Mm.
who's left on the roster that didn't get assigned, that either you can repurpose them, or you're going to have to part ways, and it's really hard.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And because you've obviously just outlined a really beautiful way of, of really starting to look at the team and how you like delegate it and things. But if you're in a situation, which I see quite a lot, where you sat there and you're going, I have no idea which direction I need to go.
Oh, that's hard too.
So that is you literally can be just sat there just going, I'm wearing multiple hats. I'm trying to spin so many different plates. Where do I focus? How do I prioritize? What skills do I actually need from my team? And there is two things that will always put you on a good direction. It's not foolproof, nothing ever is, but I'd say I rely on it 99%, with this kind of thing. And that is, number one, if you haven't got a consistent new leads coming into your business, you are kind of guaranteeing that you're not going to grow. You're not new business is almost like your lifeline. It's the thing that will save you at the end of the day. So if you mess up your product, if the market absolutely goes crazy and there's just no work at all drying up, the one thing you can save you is new business coming in. And what that allows you to do is, if you run out of cash flow or you run out of all of these other challenges, at least you have the time and money to go and fix those issues if you know that enough new business is coming through. So that's one's number one for me, is like, if you can guarantee that's robust and that's solid, you will survive another day. And then
And it will help you with funding or talking to banks, in
yeah,
regards, or investors trying to get more money to help extend that runway.
yeah, well, exactly. But that's the other challenge, is like, if we are sat there and you're paralyzed by all of, like, where do I take my business? How do I grow this? As long as that's another great example of a challenge that you can just overcome if okay, I've got a new business coming in, I can fix the rest of the problems. Now
Yeah.
then, the way that we then look at trying to fix the rest of the challenges that will stunt our growth is a thing called the theory of constraints. It's actually a model that came from the manufacturing and engineering world. Again, I pull lots of things from different industries to get a bit more of a rounded picture on ways we approach stuff. But theories of constraints usually was made so that if you looked at a workflow on a machine line, you could work out where the bottleneck was on the machine line to increase the productivity and the efficiency of products being made. So how does that then obviously apply to a business? Well, we have systems, we have processes, we just have if we're a service level business, we have people doing the work line. Now,
Right.
excuse my language. I'm just drawing parallels here. I will 100% say that as a founder, I cause many bottlenecks in my business.
Well, it's good that you are self-aware, because it is so
Oh
true. A
yeah,
lot of founders are the bottleneck.
yeah, 100%. I know being a bottleneck, but that's a prime example. So, for instance, in my business, we have a system called QAing, so quality controlling every single marketing asset that, a social media post that goes out, an article that goes out. You can name it, anything that we're making. that's got to be proofed and qualified and make sure it goes out before the client sees it. Now, previously, because sweating that small stuff is important to me, those details are important to me, I've always put myself as the last port of call. So everybody else will go check it. I'll do the final check before it goes out. That's technically a bottleneck when I'm really super busy. Now, that was fine when I've been a smaller entity.
Right.
But if I then look, great example of, if a business has gone from a very small entity to a larger entity, that has to come off the CEO and founder's plate, and that's got to go to the next person. Now, thankfully, I have a new fractional COO, so new Chief Operating Officer, who's coming into my business, and I'm going to go through a process with him so that he takes that off my list. It now gets delegated to him. And the way that I assure he's going to uphold my standards is he's going to do it now for the next month. He's going to go do it, and I will still be the last port of call, and I can be able to coach him to say, hey, these are the things I look for. I look for this line, I look for this line, I look for this detail. This has to be right here. And then when he's been able to prove that he's able to spot these gaps like 2 or 3 times in a row, I just go, great, I don't need to see this anymore. You can just carry on without me. I know that you're holding the standards. And now I've been removed from the process. And that is, without saying the whole process of what theory of constraints is, what I've done is I've broken it down into the little stages to then take it off my plate.
Yeah, exactly. And you call it the right thing. I mean, as you grow your business, the CEO, I mean, when we first start, we were doing everything, right? Then you bring on your first person, a couple more people, then you're smart enough to bring on a fractional COO. I remember the day when I finally pulled the trigger of getting a virtual assistant, and I was like, why didn't I do this sooner, right? Everyone tells you that. But it's like this hard mental challenge, like figure out, 1, what can that person work on? 2, where can I get the time to train them, give them the support they need so they can do the job I'm hiring them for, and then finally get to that point of like, they're doing what I need and I'm off and running doing other things. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's very challenging, that shift of like mindset. And it's not even that, like at some point you might even think like, well, I know I don't know this, but to try to move it off of my plate to somebody else is going to be a lot more work. But it's the same thing I tell hiring managers, right? We have an open role, which means you're extremely busy because now you're probably doing 2 roles right now. But if you don't make that extra effort to find the right person and train them up to get them onboarded and get them into the slot, you are never going to get a breath. So you got to kind of dig in, get a little bit more like, exposure of like lack of sleep, maybe, and then execute, and then be able to finally get that point where you are clear and have that like, okay, I can take a breath now moment.
Exactly. And when it comes to business owners, particularly looking at the marketing department, now this is happening in wider departments, but I'm the marketer, so I'm going to focus on the marketing, obviously. The marketing department, we are, from a team perspective, going through huge innovation and change through AI. Now, I know it's the buzzword, but I do have to address it when it comes to how on earth do you go about your marketing when there is AI tools there out there? And how do I look at my team, or how do I look at myself to, how do I use which AI tool should I be using? How should I be using it? And the classic question I always get asked is, how do I use AI to write blog articles? Like, which blog articles are going to be the most effective? Now, one of the things, like every marketer has a bit of a specialism. Mine is particularly the web and SEO. That's really is my wheelhouse. And how those processes and procedures definitely change. Now, one of the things when I'm looking at a tool, I like to break it down into what is valuable time and what is non-valuable time. So when it comes to writing a blog article, it is 100% absolutely paramount that we have the highest engagement rate possible. Now, that's a technical term in marketing. What that actually means is, can we keep the user on that page as long as physically possible? Can they be so sucked into this content that they must read it and read it and read it and read it? And if they don't read all the article, they go and look at the rest of the pages on the website. Do they go and read and download more things on the website? Are they clicking around with it? Google do see things very holistically. So we know the quality of the content is the valuable time in that process.
Yeah.
Whoever has the most knowledge in that subject. Now I'll give you an example of one of my clients. He does industrial pipe freezing. It's not glamorous. Not many people know what that is. Basically, in short, is if you've got a big, massive pipe, they're the plumbers that comes in and fix the pipe, right? So that is it. And it's in essence. I might have worked with them for 8 years now, but I'm not the expert on industrial pipe freezing. So I'm so sorry to say that.
Yeah.
But there is lots of people in the team who can just in 2 minutes just word vomit 10 bullet points, 15 bullet points, whatever it is, but they will literally voice note. We have these tools like voice notes, and we have note translators or whatever it is, but that takes 5 minutes tops. That is a valuable time. You can take that content, you can then put it into things like ChatGPT to say, hey, can you write this into an article format? And it will then give you another 95% of the job done for you. To elevate your game, that's where you want to do some skim editing. You want to skim edit, you want to do some SEO research. There's a little 5% more work you can be done. And then I honestly I'll put it back into ChatGPT to go check my grammar and my grammar, basically, those little tiny little details. So I've used it 2 or 3 times, but there has been stopping points where the content expert has to come in, the SEO expert has to come in, the editor and the copywriter, the on-page. There's 2 types of SEO people, but the other SEO person has to come in. And as a flow, you're going to then 10x your production time on blog articles just by slightly changing the system, but you're not going to impact your quality that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of AI. As an actuarial mathematics major, it has been a game changer for me in my writing for sure. And I do enjoy using it. So when you're working with your clients, what are some of the things that you're seeing, big or small, that are just kind of like, oof, man, if I could have gotten in front of them a month or a year or at some point in time prior to you interacting and engaging with them, it could have been like, oh, I could have saved them all this heartache. Is there some do you see some trend of like, man, if founders know to do this, or founders know about this and when to bring on the right expert, something to that extent, do you have any suggestions or trends that you're seeing with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I see a lot of trends and a lot of patterns in. I'll slightly segue away from your question and come back.
Okay, fair.
Because there's context. It's the businesses that get the most success from their marketing and their sales are the ones that just do the work. If I give them a priority list, they might not do the whole list, but they do the top priority list, and they always do it very, very quickly, and they prioritize it, and they always put it first. They're the ones that will always get the most back from their returns. It's the ones who procrastinate weeks and weeks and weeks on really, really important stuff. Then they wonder why they're not getting the results. And marketing, I'm afraid, is a chip away game. You have to every week chip away and do it. So then I really like the way that you phrase that. It's which of the clients or which of the businesses. It's like, I wish you spoke to me first.
Yeah. Glad you're here now, but I wish that you had come to me earlier.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to say there's 3 things, but I've only got 2 in my head because there's always a third that pops up. So number 1 is the messaging. Now, what is marketing messaging? I'm trying to think of who's like a really, really good example. But if I just dial it back, your marketing messaging is how you phrase or how you frame your product, is the short answer. It's nobody nobody ever wants to buy nobody wants to the analogy is, if nobody wants to buy a hammer, for example. Nobody Okay, maybe there's like very small people who might want to buy it, but generally on the whole, as a general population, nobody really wants to buy a hammer. It's like, it's not nice, it's not pretty. But suddenly, if you want to put a picture on the wall, that need and demand for that hammer becomes really, really important. So um your messaging could be, look how easy and simple having this beautiful picture on your wall is. How are you going to get there? Of course, you need to buy our hammer, because it's straightforward and simple. Now, that's a really poor example.
But we
No,
get it. Yeah,
but
you
you
get
get
it.
it. You get it. It's really is the framing of it, because
Mhm.
they mistake a lot of, particularly new founders. More experienced founders don't really fall into this trap, but the new founders will go, "I've got a fantastic product. People will just buy it," and I'm like, no,
Will they?
no. You know, and that's why, number one, you've really got to understand the process of how do you get your messaging right, and how do you then populate your offer. So that's number one.
Yeah. And let me add to that. I think the other part too is really understanding your audience or your customer base. Like, you think you're creating this product or the services because it's going to solve a problem that either you've experienced or that you believe is there. But if you're actually not talking to those potential customers and hearing what their true pain points are, and what they need solved for, you could create the best product out there and no one's going to want it because it's not solving the problems that they have.
Absolutely. Like, I can take, to do the whole process end to end, it does take a bit of time, and it's 100% worth that time. Like I said, when I get to a business, I was like, I just wish you'd come to me earlier, because we would have just done that foundation, that's such crucial foundational work.
Yeah.
But if anybody is listening and wants a really quick, easy way to just kind of get you into that mind frame, it's like, if you've got your product or service in front of you, go and list what happens after somebody has used your product and service. That list is what you should be talking about. That list is the thing of storytelling that you should be focusing on. The product and the services, man, don't bother. Just don't bother. Nobody cares. Sorry.
I love that. Is like one of the best advice. I'm going to go turn around and do
Yeah.
that myself. Yeah. Yeah. You don't think about that. I mean, talking about like what the outcomes are, what this tool is going to help reduce XYZ, or that it's going to improve your lifestyle or whatever it is, right? Like, yeah, that is that's a way to sell. That's
Yeah.
very easy. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. You think about a bed, no one wants to buy a bed, but if you get 12 hours sleep, deep sleep every single night, and we can guarantee that, oh, you want that deep
I mean, I
sleep.
think of Sleep Number immediately when you said that, right? Because they're all about like, we can guarantee you're going to get, I think they have a percentage, like 12%, or I don't quote me, I can't remember what the percentage is, but I remember their commercial says we can guarantee X% more of quality sleep with our beds. It was like, wow, that is a bold statement right there.
Exactly. So yeah, moving on to number two, the one that crops up the most in that is actually the websites.
Oh,
And I do have very huge sympathy, or empathy. I'm sorry, empathy is probably a better word. Empathy on this one, because web development is a massive subject in its own right. It is a minefield, and if you're not from that world, there's so many different directions that you could be pulled.
yeah.
And the way I always like to describe it is that the way that you build your website, not necessarily how your friend builds your website, is the best way for you, and the way that you build it is not really the best way for them.
Yeah.
And it does go back to like your resources and your goals. That's if you want to really break it down. So your resources and your goals. So if you have zero money, you're fresh out of the box, you're new, you have no capabilities, and I mean you really have zero money, and you're literally gonna have to just go out there and find business. You've got a vision, you've got an idea, and you're all eager. We've all been there.
Yep.
That is where the things like Squarespace and Wix and all of these new technologies come in. That is their domain. That is what they're really good at, and it's only really there to get you going. What they are lacking is capabilities to grow and scale, and that is a mistake that people think. It's like, oh, I've got a Squarespace website, it's fine. Oh, I can do that. And it's like, no, you've got to understand the capabilities of what it gives to you. And then on the flip side, I see small businesses go, yeah, I've got a fully coded website because that's what I was recommended. And I was like, yeah, great. It's going to be very secure. There's going to be really good, loads of positives and benefits to it. But can you go and edit and change your website? And they'll go, no, I have to go hire an expensive developer. Right, that expensive developer now takes all of your marketing budget and resources. So
And probably then some.
and then some, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, your website, this is kind of like a sub point of what traps you can fall into, is your website will continuously change. It will continuously adapt. It links in with your messaging. You get more information from your target audience about how they want to use their product. But you've done a bit of optimizations, you've done a little bit more listening, and now you want to improve your messaging on your website. You got to go change the website.
Mm-hmm.
You need a capability to be able to edit things and change things and move things and really pivot to what's happening, because it's everything in marketing is dynamic. Everything changes as it moves through. So I'd say having the best setup and capabilities for that is, now my personal favorite, if people want to know, for kind of the between the 1 and 10 million realm, or maybe the half a million to 10 million realm, is WordPress and Elementor Pro. They're the two tools that you need to kind of get started. And then there's a few bit of free plugins into that to really get a secure website.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as we wrap up, I would like to dive into a completely different topic or question, and that is, you are a founder yourself.
I am.
And so, growing your business and bootstrap founder, like so many of our listeners are, what is one of the biggest challenges that you have had to conquer? And what did you learn from it? Or maybe even like a different way of asking this would be, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self something that would help you not have a pain point throughout the growth, or even right now, what would that be?
Yeah, there's a few, because I now sit in a place where I've learned the hard way,
Yeah, sometimes that's the way we have to learn, though, right?
I'm never gonna make them again. The first one comes to mind was, I don't think I didn't fully appreciate the lifeline, the new business leads coming through, because one of the mistakes I made was I had robust sales funnels coming through. So I had my LinkedIn lead generation. I was building in my community. We had a very low level social media and articles to make us kind of look alive, but it didn't have any. There was a kind of sometimes I do things with intent. There was no intent to growth behind that area, and I was like, well, we've got this sales funnel. It's fine. I'm going out networking. But because what happens as you grow and scale, so when the team was about 20, it wasn't that one sales funnel was now not sufficient enough to upkeep the growth of the business. So then obviously I kept on hitting these roadblocks because I needed more sales funnels. So I had the one that was great. I needed maybe probably like 3 or 4 really running to have been all singing and dancing. It was definitely, that was one of the hardest lessons I definitely learned. And then what was the other one? I think the other one is my own level of personal growth. And I know some people say this all the time, where the more work I've done on myself, the better the work has been in the business. Does that make sense? And that's
100%. Yes. Well, because you are ultimately the business, right? As founders, we are the heartbeat of the business, I guess you could say, or the bloodline.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been into like personal growth and self-development from fairly young age, because it's the psychology that comes into the marketing from that angle.
That's true.
but I've definitely, I can't really explain it. I just can't. There was things I wanted to do when I was younger, but because you haven't done the personal growth, you do certain behaviors and habits that are, you don't know, that are a hindrance to you until
Mhm.
you kind of do the work and you're like, oh, okay, this is the compound, those 1% compounding effects that I
Yeah.
didn't realize I was slowing myself down on.
Yeah.
And it's little thing, like honestly, if I give some, like just give some examples, was because I started my first business when I was 17, and then I started this business when I was 21.
Wow.
So
Impressive.
21-year-old me, I'd say there was a little bit of naivety of not really understanding what I was doing. I was just like, I know how to sell. I can pick up a phone, and I was just very good at finding people, picking up a phone, and getting people to buy things. I knew I had that level of confidence, but no level of awareness and everything else.
Yeah.
Um, I completely forgot the point. Yeah, but anyway, so 21-year-old me was probably not as self-aware about what types of people that I had around me and what things they would encourage me that they wanted to do. And I don't mean that in a making it sound worse than it is. It's just like, if 21-year-olds, do you want to go out drinking at the weekend?
Yeah.
Well, it's like, if you go out drinking at the weekend, well, your Monday performance at work isn't going to be as good if you didn't go out drinking, or if you went out,
Yeah.
you went drinking for 2 or 3 days. It's those little things that compound every single day. It's not bad
Yeah.
stuff. It's just about what was the alignment between my daily habits and actually the goal I wanted to take the business.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thanks for sharing. Appreciate that. And hope the listeners got a couple of tidbits. I know I certainly did. So thank you, Charleh, for joining us today. And for the listeners, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you next time.